yourblackworld.com, and you saw that this week there were some changes in terms of how certain public figures and social commentators are speaking about the Obama presidency. Much of that was driven by Obama's recent announcement on immigration, where he said that the White House would no longer pursue deportation of immigrants who were brought here illegally before the age of 16. Well, this is the second time that President Obama has taken a very bold stand on a controversial issue in recent months. Just last month, he talked about gay rights and actually came out in support of gay marriage. Well, a lot of people have asked, well, why hasn't he made an equally strong stand on any issue that is relevant to African Americans, any issue that is uniquely relevant to African Americans, and not coincidentally. And Roland Martin is one of the most recent commentators to stand up and say, what's going on here? This isn't making any sense. So to talk about this issue, I wanted to bring in my partner in crime, editor at Your Black World, Miss Yvette Carnell. How you doing today, Yvette?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. I just got back in town. I had a good trip. So what's up? I mean, you wrote a really good article where you kind of pointed out, you actually found some tweets that Roland Martin has spit out, and it's tough to follow Roland Martin's tweets because, you know, Roland tweets a lot, and I followed him on Twitter for about 5 minutes, and I couldn't take it because I think in those 5 minutes the brother sent about 30 tweets. But you saw some tweets. You saw some tweets where Roland was basically saying that it's time to really talk about the fact that black leadership and black public figures have not held the Obama White House accountable for issues that affect black Americans. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah, Roland was telling the truth. Roland was basically saying the same thing that I've been saying and you've been saying for a very long time. Roland was saying that the reason that black people haven't gotten a lot of what we wanted is because we haven't really asked for anything. We have Al Sharpton, who said that he won't even criticize the first black president. This is the man who was marching and will march for and against all sorts of things, but he said he wouldn't criticize the first black president. He wasn't criticizing this guy. And so we haven't demanded anything and we haven't gotten anything. And that's basically what Roland Martin's tweets were about. My whole point was it's a little late in the game. Now, to be fair, Roland tweeted me back and said he wasn't late and that he'd written an op-ed in what was it, Essence, and that he had written something on his blog. Well, my response to that is basically you may as well have written that on your bedroom wall, because this is the thing, and everybody knows this. If you really want to stand for something, you have to be a drum major for that thing. That doesn't mean that you have to, every time you go on CNN, mention the black vote. It doesn't mean that. But you have Twitter, I don't even know how many, he has at least 50,000 Twitter followers, I'm sure. I haven't checked it, so don't hold me to that. But he tweets about all sorts of stuff. Some of his tweets have gotten him in trouble, but I'm just saying if you had used it to kind of push people, push
Right.
these people, push the black people that we talk to every day and say, hey, let's really start considering this. You don't know what could have happened. So what I'm saying is that what we have basically now is a lot of Johnny-come-latelys. I saw Van Jones on C-SPAN of all places, where he tried to, go on the record. That's what reporters always say. Why went on the record? Is it that actually means something? I can go on the record right now to somebody at AP. But what does that mean? And then I can come back 10 years later and be like, well, I went on the record with AP in 2012. It doesn't really mean anything. But Van Jones went on C-SPAN and said, well, I probably would have done more if Barack Obama wasn't who he was and, I didn't hold him accountable. Well, it's a few months before the election now. What are you planning to negotiate now?
Well, that's funny you say that about Roland and Twitter. You're right. He tweets about all kinds of things. And I think Roland actually has 100,000 Twitter followers, which is huge.
Yeah.
I was proud to have 30,000, but obviously I'm not as important as Roland Martin, which is fine. I respect Roland a lot. But the fact of the matter is that, he could have been talking about this a lot more. And the thing is that Roland has a certain degree of audacity where no matter what you say, if you disagree with him, then you are definitely wrong. He's not a person, for whatever reason, who is able to say, I agree with you, or to take criticism lightly. He will tweet back at you and say, no, I wrote this one article 2 years ago that said blah, 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 and so you're wrong. Well, that's not, well, actually, no, I think, Yvette, that you were right. Roland really unfortunately, like a lot of people, got caught up in Obama mania. And mania is a state of psychotic behavior for the most part. I'm not a psychologist, but when you have mania, you are not thinking rationally. And as a community, we were so caught up in Obama mania that we were unable to accurately assess the policies, to accurately assess the opportunity, to make sure that our agenda gets represented. And it's really no different from being some dumb, some uneducated recording artist who is so happy to get a record deal that he doesn't even read the damn contract. And then later on, you look back and you realize that you should not have allowed your excitement and enthusiasm to cause you to let go of rational thinking. So, with Roland, what I will give Roland credit for, however, and this is one thing I certainly have to give him credit for, is that he was that first person that spoke up on that bogus appointment of Elena Kagan to the Supreme Court, where the White House, you remember that, where the White House was trying to position this woman as if she was somehow good for the black community. She wasn't good for the black community. That lady had such a that lady's hiring record was more racist than David Duke's hiring record could have been. A member of the KKK could not have had a worse hiring record at Harvard than Elena Kagan did. She hired 32 faculty during the time she was there, and not one of them were black, Latino, or Native American. This lady cares nothing about black people, and Obama overlooked every qualified black woman for the Supreme Court, knowing full well that Dorothy Height told him before she died that she would like to see a black woman on the Supreme Court, knowing full well that the Supreme Court has never had an African American woman. There's never been a black woman on the Supreme Court. He knew that the time was right to make that sacrifice to get a black woman on the court, and he walked away from the opportunity so that he could serve himself, so that he could serve his opportunity to be reelected. Politically speaking, we know Elena Kagan was an amazing appointment for Obama because she was, she's Jewish, she's from Harvard, she's a woman, and a lot of people think that she's gay. So she had a lot of things, in her arsenal that allowed Obama to gain some votes from that. But the fact of the matter is that progress on civil rights, progress on equality requires sacrifice. And what I'm missing here is the willingness of the administration to make sacrifices on behalf of the pursuit of racial equality. And that's really what bothers me.
Well, here's the thing. Obama's not the kind of man to ever make a sacrifice. That's not who he is. But what he will do is listen to people who make a lot of noise. When the LBGT community went out and basically they started camping out at his campaign offices. That's what they did to get him to move on this. You saw that with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. You saw that with the Defense of Marriage Act, where Obama said the White House said we don't have any choice but to enforce that. And then when the LBGT community pushed, the Obama administration folded. We see time and time again that the administration will move when they're forced to move on issues. The problem with black people is that we just won't force them to move. We think that Obama, we keep saying Obama's just a politician. That's what I hear from black people all around the world. Well, he's just a politician. Yeah, he's just a politician, which means he's not going to do anything for you out of the goodness of his heart. He's going to do it because you push him to do it. And so if you keep telling me, well, we shouldn't have a black agenda, why shouldn't we have a black agenda? Everybody else has an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. The right wing has an agenda. The Israel lobby rightfully has an agenda. I agree that they should have an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. So, but when you talk to black people about what's the black agenda? Well, why should we have an agenda? Why does it have to be about race? Well, you're going to lose if that's your standard, that we shouldn't even have a black agenda. Then just throw in the towel right now for you, your babies, babies, everybody else, because it's over.
Well, yeah, what really throws me off and what has always bothered me, and this is just a reflection of ignorant thinking, is that somehow by asking for a return on your political investment, that you're somehow attacking the president, that you're being critical of the president by asking for a return on what you have invested to help get this man into office. That's like saying that you're being critical of your child by asking them to go out and take the garbage out, or you're being critical of your employee by asking them to do the job that you have paid them to do. With the Obama White House, it's so interesting that our philosophy has been that, that we should just sit back and be quiet and allow them to do things for us when they have free time. Well, guess what, people? They ain't never going to have time for you if you don't ask for nothing. And here's the other thing. Here's where we have to hold our black leadership accountable on this matter is that most of the black leadership in America has dropped the ball. We have to start with Al Sharpton, who's the closest man to the president. I have no idea. Al Sharpton is a very brilliant, he's a smart man. He is a strong man. And I've sat next to him for hours at a time and had wonderful conversations with him. And I have learned so much from talking to him. So to see him kind of buckle to the White House, to have Valerie Jarrett picking up the phone telling him what to do damn near when it comes to the black community, that just bothers me. I mean, the only time Sharpton and I ever had a fight on the radio was because of something I said about Valerie Jarrett that was true. I quoted something out of the Washington Post, and apparently somebody from the White House got on the phone with Sharpton, and next thing you know, Sharpton's trying to fight me. And I'm like, man, you shouldn't be fighting me. You need to be fighting the people that are trying to ignore and disrespect your people. So I don't know, and again, this isn't just about Sharpton. This is about everybody who got so caught up in the fact that it was fashionable for about 2 years. It was so fashionable in the black community to be affiliated with Obama on any level that people were too busy being starstruck and kissing his ass to actually stand up with an agenda. And so the fact of the matter is, it's no different. It reminds me, and I'm going to shut up on this. It reminds me, Yvette, and this is more lighthearted. It reminds me of when Michael Jordan used to play in the NBA. He said sometimes there would be guys that were going to guard him, whose job it was to stop him from scoring, but the guys would be so in awe of being around him that they would literally want to be his buddy. They'd want to get an autograph sometimes. They'd want to, they tell him how much they admire him. And guess what? He would go out and drop 60 points on their dumbasses because he said, you're not even doing your job because I don't even respect you now because you're so much in awe of me that you're not even trying to play good basketball with me. This is a game. This is, what I mean? This is a sport where you have to earn your respect. Politics is the same way. When you deal with political leaders, you must earn your respect. You can't sit so much in awe of them that you ask them for nothing because guess what? They're going to do like Michael Jordan did and take advantage of your weakness.
Exactly. And the only last point I want to make is that we need to redefine what we consider activism. A lot of people have come to me, and I'm not trying to bash Sharpton, but he's the best example of what I'm trying to say. There are a lot of all black leaders, for the most part, have dropped the ball in terms of the mainstream leaders that we see. But my whole point is that if in order to consider yourself an activist, in order to define yourself as an activist, you have to be willing to speak truth to power. You have to be willing to say that I stand for all of these people, all of these black people. These are the people that I speak for. And I'm going to come in here, and when I come into the White House, I represent those people. You can't come to me representing the White House and still consider yourself an activist. You're no longer an activist. That may be what you did way back then, but that's not who you are now. That day is long gone. You are insulating the White House from criticism. That's what you're doing. When people actually come to you now and say, hey, this is wrong, and want to speak truth to power, it's now you who is shouting those people down. So you can't consider yourself an activist anymore. So that's why I get so upset when people come to me and be like, he's an activist. No, he's not. Just because you march doesn't make you an activist. He's no longer an activist. He is insulating the White House from criticism. That's what he does now. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know whether a deal was cut. I don't know any of that. So I can't even claim to know any of that, but I know what he's doing now is not activism. He might as well get a check from the White House because he works for the White House.
Well, I'm gonna take Sharpton out of my personal conversation on this because I feel like I've said enough on that, and I agree with you. I think that point certainly needs to be made. I think overall, what we've got to do is, as a community, decide from this point forward that we're not going to be so in awe of the Obama White House that we do not stand up for our children and for our children's children, as you mentioned. You might have complete respect for the president, which you should. You might love the president, which I think is perfectly fine. I love him too. But there's a point where you must also say, look, I know that love is nice, but mutual respect is also important. And so we're going to speak to you about the issues that matter to us, the things that are affecting our families, starting with things like mass incarceration, racial inequality in the workplace, educational inequality, economic inequality. And we want to hear you speak to those issues as well, because if you're not speaking to the issues that matter to us and our families, then we really don't have much of a use for you. We wish you good luck in your political career. We hope that lots of white people vote for you because apparently they seem to like you very much. But when it comes to me taking care of my children, when it comes to me getting my daddy out of prison, who was locked up in 1988 on a drug charge, when it comes to me dealing with the racism that I have to deal with in the workplace every day, when it comes to me dealing with my child going to an inadequate inner city school, I ain't got time to be kissing your ass because I'm too busy taking care of the people that I care about. And that's really where we have to go from this point forward as a community. And I think that I congratulate Roland for using his platform to help him to make that point, because in spite of the differences that I've had with Roland, I appreciate the fact that he is now helping people to kind of wake up from the la-la land that we've been in for the last 2 or 3 years. Obama mania was entirely inappropriate. Supporting Obama is fine, but falling in love with a politician will almost always lead you to a very bad outcome. So, thank you very much, Yvette. I truly appreciate your time. And thank you all for checking us out at yourblackworld.com. Don't forget to come to the website, where our traffic is growing every day. And I truly appreciate, all of your support from the bottom of my heart. And also Ed Gordon and I are on the radio in DC and Detroit on Saturdays and Sundays. So check us out. In Detroit we're on WHUR, in DC we're on WHUR, and in Detroit we're on Mix 92.3, and in Detroit we're on Sundays from 12 to 2, and in DC we're on Saturdays from 7 to 9 p.m. I think. See, I did so bad, Yvette. I keep messing it up. Ed's going to kill me. I'm going to get it right next time, I promise. In fact, I need to have it written down in front of me. But the show's doing very well, and we think that it's actually going to get picked up by some other cities. So thank you all for supporting us on that, too. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.